Well, hello. My name is Brian DiNapoli. I'm the host of this podcast called NIL Mindset. It's a podcast, more of a passion project for me, for resources on student athletes and parents, on mental health, preventing drug and alcohol abuse, player safety, financial, educational, and other NIL resources. And I interview student athletes and leaders in sports, as well as community leaders, on how they can help young people navigate all the complexities of life and their families. And today we have an awesome guest. She has a passion to help young people. Met her a few months ago on a Zoom call, and we both have a passion to help young people prevent drug and alcohol abuse, just to have them not go down that alley. I'm a person who had an issue with alcohol when I was younger. So this is one of my ways of giving back. And our guest today, she was born and raised in Washington, D.C. She has taught school in Ohio and is currently a senior advisor at a high school in Atlanta. And her name is Ivana Ferrari. And I thought she could share some excellent insight for young people, caregivers, and parents on just helping young people today. So, Ivana, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for coming and happy holidays. We're recording this right in the middle of December. To start, why don't you tell us about your experiences as a school teacher?
So, as a high school teacher, I realized that there were a lot of students who just didn't have the support as far as just motivation was concerned. There were a lot of students that I work with who were amazing students, but were not really reaching their full potential because either they didn't have the confidence or they just didn't have the support. So, one of my favorite parts about being a teacher was being able to talk to students and really empower them to reach their full potential.
That's excellent. How long did you teach for?
So for 5 years, and then at the end of my fifth year, my students were really upset that I was leaving the classroom, and I told them, like, I just know that my purpose is so much bigger than just being in a classroom. Like, I really want to do it on a larger scale where I empower students, do workshops in groups, and just really get them to change their mindset and change their habits so that they can be successful.
Yeah, and did you know you wanted to be a teacher and help young people at what age? Were you in middle school, high school?
I was a late bloomer, so I went all the way through college. My first couple years in college, I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I kept switching majors. I realized that science and math were very, very difficult for me, so I should stop choosing majors that had a ton of math and science. So I ended up majoring in English, because I knew that I was good at. I've always been good at English. I love writing, so I was like, fine, I'll just major in English. And the whole time throughout college, people kept asking me, "Are you going to be English? Are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to be a teacher?" And I'm like, "No, nobody wants to teach. Who wants to teach? No, I don't want to be a teacher." And then it wasn't until I had my first daughter and I was working at a daycare, and they put me in the school age room. And in the school age room, I was able to work with like these 6, 7 year olds, and I was like, this is kind of rewarding, being able to teach something and have them retain the information. It was very rewarding, but I knew I didn't really like little kids as much as I liked older kids. So I did subbing for a while to see what kind of students that I wanted to work with and the age group, and I ended up sticking with high school.
Yeah, that's incredible. It really takes a gift to work with young people, and I get it about being a late bloomer. I'm definitely a late bloomer. I'm the youngest in my family, and next oldest sibling was 5.5, 6 years older than me. So I completely get it. That's partly why I'm doing this podcast. Just more of a passion project, and just being a late bloomer. And how do you connect with young people and make an impact on their lives?
Now, as a senior advisor, when I have my talks with my students about what they want to be, I always let them know, like, you just, at the end of the day, no matter what you do, you have to be ready to take on any task. You have to be mentally prepared and you have to be strong to do anything. So some of them want to be business owners, some of them just want to work, just want to work. And I'm like, well, work doesn't just stop with just working somewhere. Like I want you to think big, like think district manager, think management, don't think just like worker. I want them to really tap into their strengths and to just value that leadership portion so that they can be leaders in society instead of just working individuals.
I love that. I always tell everyone to have a BWG every year. And since we're approaching the new year, standing for big wild goal. And one of my goals last year or this year was to start this podcast. So I encourage everyone to do that. At least have one big goal for the year. But I really love that. Can you share a challenge you faced and how you overcame it?
A challenge, like any challenge from young to adult or
I would say when you were a teenager, and you can also include like a recent one.
Okay, so one of my biggest challenges, and I think this is what helped to propel me and to give me that resilience. So when I was in high school, I ended up getting pregnant in high school. And then a bunch of things happened where I ended up in a group home, and then I lost the baby, and I still maintained my grades. Well, in that process, I was in a program, and they told me to apply for the scholarship. The scholarship had 3 different essays, and they were like, I know you can do it, just do it. And I was just like, what? Like, no, I don't want to write 3 essays. This is a lot of work. And I ended up doing it, and I ended up winning the scholarship. It was a $20,000 scholarship. And they gave me a printer and a laptop and the $20,000. And I ended up not having to pay for school because of that scholarship, because I had a couple other awards. So that instance right there showed me that one, just do it, just try it and see what happens, even if you aren't confident in whatever it is that will be successful, just try it. And it also helped me to understand that, sometimes we do go through things, and those things can help build us to be better for the future, because I would have never known that me writing about my experience about getting pregnant and losing a baby would have won me a $20,000 scholarship.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss, but congratulations. And you took that, negative experience that happened and turned it into a positive. And took on a new challenge. I've always said that with discomfort comes growth. And I was terrified of public speaking. I was that shy kid in the back of the classroom, just terrified to ask a question in class. I mentioned being a late bloomer, so I joined a club called Toastmasters, and that's helped me a lot with communication skills. Have you ever heard of Toastmasters, the
Yeah.
public speaking group?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent avenue for young people. If you go to toastmasters.org, it's a place you can learn to become a better public speaker, just a better leader and listener. And it's totally transformed my life for the better. I definitely would not be doing this if it were not for that group. And what advice would you give young people handling on how to handle peer pressure?
Man, so when I speak to young adults about just drug prevention and alcohol prevention, I always have them remember, what is your goal? Like, what is your ultimate goal in life, period? Because once they're able to identify what it is that they want to focus on, what it is that they want in their future, then it's easier to direct them. So for instance, I have a client, because I'm a young adult life coach. I have a client whose mom reached out to me and was like, he's vaping, he's smoking marijuana, and I don't know how to help him. So when I sat down and talked to him, one of the first things we did was identify his goal. Like, what is your goal? Like, what is a solid long-term goal for you? Because he's in high school. And he told me that he wanted to get an athletic scholarship. And that was easy. So I was just like, well, great. I'm glad that's what you want to do, because this is perfect for this conversation. So you can't do that and do that. Um, you cannot achieve this goal of wanting to get an athletic scholarship with the habits that you have. You cannot vape every day. You can't, smoke periodically every day, whatever. You can't do that activity and also excel in a sport. It just doesn't go hand in hand. And also the time that you're spending, you can be putting into and practicing. Like you want to get an athletic scholarship, you should be exercising. You shouldn't be vaping. That they just don't go hand in hand. So I always take that approach, especially with young adults. Like, what is your goal? I don't ever try to tell them like, don't do it. That's not a good idea. Like I just make it make sense. Like I give them the facts. Like whatever the life is that you want, you have to do things that align with that life that you want.
Yeah, it's excellent insight. I tell young people and my nieces and nephews that anything that gives you an artificial, quick dopamine hit is going to be trouble. And I agree with you 100%. It really is a dream killer. I mean, the weed today is so powerful. It's 10 to 20 times more potent than it was, 25 years ago. And for me, my crutch was alcohol. I drank to overcome shyness, to fit in, to meet girls, and that kind of thing. It had always backfired. But when I stopped, great things in my life happened. I found a better job. I found a home. I bought a home. Eventually met my wife. So just anyone out there struggling with drugs or alcohol, I encourage you to just go out there and seek help. And fortunately, there's people like you, Ivana, that can help them and have that positive influence that you can really connect with them so well. And how can parents or caregivers help teens struggling with mental health?
The best thing that they can do, so I'm glad that you asked because when I was younger, like, and I'm not sure cultures are different, but I know like mental health was not a thing. Like when I was growing up, it just wasn't a thing. Like people didn't discuss it. It wasn't something that was a hot topic at all. It wasn't even a topic, let alone hot. So um I always tell, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just like thinking about me growing up. So when I was growing up, my mom, I was struggling with depression. I had my stepmom committed suicide when I was in middle school or going into middle school, and that was very traumatic for me. And I remember going through a very depressed state. And when I would go through my cycles of depression or just be in that depression, my mom didn't really identify it. She told me that I didn't really have anything to be sad about. And that was probably the most harmful thing. And I know that she didn't mean, any harm, but her not acknowledging that I was dealing with a mental health issue was very difficult for me because I didn't have anybody to talk to because she didn't think I had a problem and she was really the only person that I had. So just being that support system and letting them know that it is normal to go through mental health issues and that there is help and just supporting them and helping them through those emotions, helping them to identify those emotions because even if you're not a licensed mental health therapist, you can still support individuals by just identifying, like, okay, I understand that you are going through something, helping them identify their emotions and just getting them that professional help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. I mean, I know you sounds like you've overcome a lot of challenges, but that's made you so strong and such a great person to work with. And there is one silver lining to the pandemic, and that's the 988 helpline. So anyone struggling with mental health or drug and alcohol abuse, you can always call 988 or you can text 988 anytime, 24/7, 365. And there's trained counselors that can help on the other side. Have you ever referred anyone to 988, Ivana?
I haven't had to. I did have a student who was dealing with some mental health issues, but she had some resources. But no, I haven't had to direct anybody to that line, but I do know about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have, and it has been very helpful. And it's relatively new. It's only a couple years old, but it really has been transformative. And what are some warning signs of substance abuse that parents can look out for with their children or caregivers?
Any signs of withdrawal from any activity? Teenagers, they do. Sometimes I feel like they don't like anything, but they do like stuff. They like to do certain things, and when there is a change in behavior, that is a red flag. Staying to themselves, being very shut off from everyone, being very angry, just kind of irritable, those are signs, because there has been research shown that they do have an increase of anxiety when they're vaping or using, because when they can't have it, they can't have it, and that's a problem for them. So they will be a little more irritable and withdrawn.
Yeah, and what are some resources you would suggest? Are there any websites or anywhere like that that you would suggest for parents?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I have a short list, and I can't remember any of them in this moment, but I do have a list, and I'll send that over to you. But I have a list of resources that I can give you.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that Decatur Prevention Initiative that we both, serve on the board with them. That's a great resource.
Yeah, there's a
And
specific website that DPI has. There is a specific website, and I can get that for you.
there is, yes. If you Google Decatur Prevention Initiative, they have some excellent resources. And how can young people develop leadership skills while in sports or any other activities outside of sports? And were you involved in any activities in high school?
I played volleyball, and I also was class president, I think my sophomore year. Um, just I'm an advocate for reading. I read a lot now. I read so much now that I'm older, and I realize that there is so much information and so much knowledge you can gain from just simply reading. So I would just encourage anybody, young adults, just read, find books. So specifically, don't just pick up any self-help book. Figure it out what it is. You have to do a self-evaluation. So acknowledge where you're lacking, acknowledge that you are flawed, and acknowledge what area those are, and then find the best self-help books for those specific areas. And you just read as much as you can. And I'm not it's hard for me to sit with a book because my mind just wanders. So a lot of times I'll have a physical book and I'll have the audio. And if I just have the audio, I try not to do anything that takes my mind off of it, because research has shown that we cannot multitask. Our brain just stops and starts very quickly, but we cannot multitask. So whenever I am listening to an audiobook, I'm sitting, I'm either driving, which doesn't really take much thought, especially when you're sitting in Atlanta traffic. So you kind of just sit there. So I listen to my audiobooks, and then what's most helpful is when I sit down with my notebook and I take notes as I'm listening to these self-help books. But there are definitely a ton of books out there that will help you develop just a better mindset. And once you can develop a better mindset, you can develop better leadership skills.
100% agree with you. And it peels young people off, or anyone off of their device, the cell phone, the laptop, computer, and just old school, reading, whether it even be if you go to the pool or the beach in the summer, or just like you said, turning off the TV for a while and reading a book. And I'm starting to do that too. I need to do a lot more of it because I love sports, mainly watch sports, but it is an excellent avenue to read. It's very therapeutic, and it really helps with. I've had trouble sleeping in the past. It's helped me sleep better, by reading also. And then you can go to your local library, and of course, always check out a free book. And I know in DeKalb, where I live, they have if you're a DeKalb resident with a library card, you can get free audiobooks too. So I definitely suggest everyone checks that out. But yeah, I love that. That's excellent. And how do
Brian,
you? Oh yeah,
oh,
I'm sorry,
I had a
Ivana. Go ahead.
question. Brian, you said you wanted to read, you want to try to get into reading more.
I do absolutely.
Can I
Yes,
can I give a suggestion?
please do.
So having a set time where you read every day has been very helpful. So like I said, I listen to my audiobooks in the car, but I also wake up before I have to wake up. I was a part of the 5 a.m. club for a while. Now I'm more of like the 5:30, a little before 6 club, but I don't have to technically start moving and getting my kids ready until 7. So I have a whole hour where I have time to meditate, and I can read my book, and I can also journal. So I do those 3 things every morning. So it's built into my day, because I already know that when my day starts, my day is started, and there is no fitting anything into that schedule. So because of that, and my brain works best in the morning. I know everybody's different. Some people function better at night. You can't get me to do anything at night. Don't ask me to think or talk after 8 o'clock. But because I know that about myself, so that's another thing you can do, just kind of evaluate and just see when you have your most energy. So I am very energized in the morning. I'm an early bird, so I have that very specific time where I get up, and that is what that time is for. It's not for anything else but self-development, reading, meditating, and journaling.
Yeah, excellent insight. I've read that, for workers, they're most productive between that, 8 and 11 a.m., time frame. Yeah, completely. I get up so early at 4 a.m. I walk a lot. I walk in the morning. But that's a good point. Rather than watching 30 minutes of Sports Center, I'll read for 30 minutes and, catch Sports Center later on. So I love that, to set dedicated time to do that. And we were talking about mental health. I was thinking, a friend of mine told me a few months ago, you go to bed worrying and thinking about what went wrong. Think about what went right, but schedule 5 or 10 minutes of time that you'll worry, whatever you're worried about, just schedule that time sometime during the day. That way you get it out of the way. You don't do it at night. So that just made me think of what he mentioned to me, and it's been very helpful for me to sleep better. And
Yeah.
how do you stay motivated and focused on your goals? You seem like obviously a very goal-oriented person.
I write them down. I write down my goals and I'm constantly reading self-help books. Like, so I just finished The Magic of Thinking Big, and that was a really good book. So just books like that just really help encourage me to keep going and that I have it. And then journaling, like I said, I journal every morning in that very specific window and I write down my goals for. So I read the book The 12-Week Year. That was another game changer for me. The 12-week year breaks down your life in 12 weeks instead of looking at your life in a year and setting these long 365-day goals. Oh, next year I want to do this. Next year I want to do this. First of all, that's not specific enough. You can't just say next year because at what point next year? But when you break it down into 12 weeks, you have 12 weeks to get this done. And that is it. Like you have 12 weeks and within those 12 weeks, you need to focus on those goals. And I don't set a ton of goals. I set some that I know are easy to achieve or fairly easy. And that may take some work, but I do put them on there for 12 weeks and I have 12 weeks to get it done. And I always go back and I'll go through and set weekly goals. So I'm just constantly working towards those goals.
Yeah, very timely with the new year approaching, the 12-week year. So that's a book. Is there a website also?
I think there is a website, yeah. But
Okay, the 12-week. And what was the first book you mentioned too?
The Magic of Thinking Big.
The Magic of Thinking Big. Yeah, I'm gonna write that one down too.
Oh, when I tell you these are, I was going through my Audibles and looking at all the stacks of books that I have from this year. I'm like, I read at least, I would say at least 15 books this year. And they were all like some of the one books that everybody tells you, like, this is a life changer. You got to read this book, like all of those plus some.
That's amazing. I doubt many people read that many books. You're definitely, yeah, not many people are doing that. We talked about the 12-week year. I was also thinking every year I pick one word. There's a motivational speaker named John Gordon. He's mainly just speaks with athletes, professional athletes and college athletes, teams and things like that. And he always says pick one word rather than all these complex, 20 different resolutions that most of them you won't complete or you just stop trying after 2 months. But the 12-week year sounds similar to picking one word. So, but I encourage everyone to, pick one word, whether it be love, service. My word for this year was propel, just to, get 1% better type thing every year, every day type thing. But it sounds like you're always doing that and always just trying to get better. So
Yeah.
I really admire that. And how can others contact you, Ivana?
So I have my Instagram is mmfa solutions mmfa solutions, and then I have my coaching website mmfacoaching.com.
Okay, and that's facoaching.com.
So
Oh, I'm sorry.
M
MM,
mmfa coaching.
mmfacoaching.com. Okay, yeah, I encourage everyone to go to that website. Well, thank you, Ivana. This has been very helpful. It was, yeah, very impactful. I learned a lot, some great tidbits on working with teams and connecting with young people, and also some excellent insight on new books to read. Very timely with the new year coming, especially with the 12-week year. And just setting those big goals. I talked about setting a big wild goal, at least one new goal every year that you've never accomplished. I really encourage everyone to do that. So, please tune into this. It's called NIL Mindset. There is a YouTube channel. I do have a website, resources for student athletes and parents, called nilinsight.com. And you can also reach me if you'd like to be a guest at Brian, Brian 3008 at iCloud.com. Greatly appreciate your time, Ivana. I wish you a wonderful holiday. And I wish everyone listening on this to this podcast a wonderful holiday. So thank you again. And until next time, just keep moving forward.
Thank you.